Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. Let me share with you a ton of more reasons to be optimistic that the crypto market's going higher and XRP is absolutely going along with it. I'll share with you perspective from analysts who are arguing that XRP is going to be hitting at least $10. One says that's a conservative target, thinks it could go much higher than that this market cycle. On top of that, and I've been saying this part for a long time, the fundamentals for XRP have never been stronger. And they've always been strong. That's why XRP has always been in the top 10 coins by market cap for its entire existence, even when the SEC was attacking it. That's truly impressive. But since that's concluded, and since we've had the change in administration in the United States and we're in a pro-crypto environment, the fundamentals have only gotten stronger, actually. And I'm going to highlight some of that in this latest Moon Lambo Hot to Jam, because frankly, things are looking pretty damn good so far as I'm concerned. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. All right, so today was FOMC day. I talked about that in the last video, so I'm not going to really focus on that here, but I will note, of course, there's expected volatility day. It's happening. In fact, at the time I'm recording this, XRP is pulling back. It's down to $2.57. But that's not something that's unique to XRP. It's the entire crypto market. Everything else is pretty much flat, or you can look at Bitcoin down almost 2% at 110,861 bucks. These are not red flags. This is normal volatility. Nothing to be fearful of here. Even if the market tanks further, which some analysts have predicted, that doesn't change anything on a higher time frame. It would be bizarre for this market to conclude without that parabolic blow off top. And if you're wondering what the odds are that market's going to rampage higher, well, let's call upon history. History does tend to rhyme with itself. And so there's this post from Seth Golden. Now, he is a hedge fund consultant, and he's the chief market strategist at Phenom Group. And he shared this data. It's on your screen right here. And he wrote, "Bears, look away. It's your only hope. When the S&P 500 gains 15% or more by end of October, November and December returns have been positive 95% of the time, with average gain of 4.8%. The average max drawdown would be 3.4%. And he notes that there's only been one loss ever out of all of these years, going back to 1954. It was a midterm election year, 1986, and this is not a midterm election year, he notes, with a little winky face. So consider this. The S&P 500, actually, by the way, did hit a new intraday all-time high today, 6,920. It's the first time the S&P 500 has ever in history been above 6,900, and it closed slightly below 6,900. We're at 6,890. But the S&P 500 this year, just year to date, it is up 17.42%. So again, looking back on the data that Seth Golden just shared, he notes that the S&P 500, if it's up 15% or more by the end of October, which concludes in a couple days here. If you're at least at 15%, and we're almost 18% here, then November and December have been bullish. 95% of the time, going back to 1954. History rhymes with itself. And you might be wondering, well, this is a lot of strength. Yeah, it is. Because when a market gains strength, it doesn't just instantly lose it. And that's why even buying at all-time highs, like say you buy it the first time a market hits an all-time high for the first time in a few years, is that a bad time to buy? Well, history tells us the answer is actually no, because when you have the type of strength that gets you to that point, it persists for a long period of time. You go into bull market mode. And so this can't go on forever. Of course, I'm aware of that. You guys know that. But it doesn't mean that the end is here. And based on historic precedent, it would be weird if we don't see Q4 looking pretty darn good by the time things all said and done. Here's a post from Zero Hedge. And they wrote, and this is, by the way, this chart on your screen here, this is from JP Morgan, one of the largest freaking banks on the entire planet. And here's a quote from JP Morgan. This should instill confidence. And by the way, just be clear, the reason I'm highlighting this, because I know that's not crypto specific, it's not XRP specific. The crypto asset class moves in tandem with the stock market. XRP moves in tandem with the rest of the crypto market. It's all one play effectively. So if we're going to see the S&P 500 continue to rampage higher, it makes sense to believe that what is probable is that you're going to see the crypto asset class correlate to that to that upside until finally it hits a parabolic blow off top, things get overheated, and then you can have like a short-term detachment from that to where they're not correlated. And that's happened in history. But we're not in that type of environment where it would make sense to expect that. And then, but still, look, the important thing is stock market goes higher, crypto goes higher as a result. XRP is part of that. And XRP has been so artificially suppressed for so long price-wise, there's a lot more ground that it can make up. I certainly believe that. But here was the quote from JP Morgan. And they're talking about the S&P 500. Today will be the 5th time that the Fed cuts rates with the S&P 500 at all-time highs. All prior instances, the S&P 500 was higher a year later with an average return of 20%. The worst one-year return was a 15% gain, which occurred last year. And folks, this is just data going back the last half a century. And they're saying every single time when the S&P 500 is at all-time highs, which is where we are at. We hit a new all-time high today, I just told you. Every single time that's happened and the Fed cuts rates, if you fast forward 1 year out from that, so imagine October 2026, history tells us that you're up an average of 20% in the stock market. Well, specifically the S&P 500 here. So that, you know what that plays into? It plays into this theory from Raoul Pal and Julian Biddle, Tech Dev, and a number of others who have said, guys, actually what's going to happen here is that we're likely to have the crypto market peak in the first or second quarter of 2026. And that has to do with a bunch of reasons I've cited in other videos. I don't want to go into it here, but I'm just saying that the historical data plays well with that theory, doesn't it? That stands out to me. So if that's the case, at some point in the not too distant future, XRP, which already had its first leg up in November of last year, it's going to have its final leg up. And that's the one that's way, way, way more powerful, historically speaking, than the first one. So the first one took us from 49 cents up to $3.40 in January, and we did have a new all-time high this summer, but it wasn't like it clearly wasn't like the final leg up. So that was a big move in terms of dollars. You were up, close to $3 in one move, right? Well, history tells us the second move in terms of dollars is way more substantial than that, and that's why I keep saying the analysts that are talking about XRP getting up to, double-digit price action, whether it's 10, 15, 20 bucks. I don't know if it will happen, but it's not crazy. And here's another reason to believe that Bitcoin ain't done either. And this comes from Tom Lee. He's a CIO of Fundstrat Capital. He's on CNBC all the time. 546,000 followers for a reason. He's got a great accuracy rating. Some people like to give him crap for some reason. I don't know if it's his hair. But he honestly, he has a great track record. And he wrote, worth keeping an eye on this. And what's he talking about? He's talking about a post from somebody named Vance here, who is sharing what happens, the inverse correlation between gold action and Bitcoin price action. So you can see what happened in 2020. In the summer of 2020, gold peaked, it went down. At the same time, Bitcoin went up. And this makes sense because gold, that's considered more of a risk-off asset. I mean, historically anyway, it's considered a hedge against inflation in tumultuous times. And so when that goes down, Bitcoin goes up. Bitcoin's a risk-on asset, whether you like it or not. It just is. And so now we're hitting this moment where it's highly likely either gold has hit its peak or it's probably close. A lot of analysts think that anyway. We'll find out together what's true. Let some time pass. But if that's the case, this would be the time when Bitcoin would turn around. And that's why I keep saying there's so much macro confluence. I can't imagine not being bullish here. Like, it's just insane to me. Here's a post from Chart Analyst Mustache. Altcoins. This is the total 3 chart. That's the crypto asset class excluding Bitcoin and Ethereum. So altcoins. October is almost over, and total 3's monthly candle looks like this. 6-year trend line holds like a boss. 2021 all-time high, now acting as support. Altcoins look so bullish from a macro perspective. Patience. And that's another perspective here. I mean, and XRP is part of that chart. I just don't think this is over. And metrics for XRP, like I cited at the outset of the video, looking pretty damn good. Look at this headline from the Crypto Basic. XRP outperformed Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana combined in market cap in Q3. Messari report. Now, this is fascinating because Messari was founded by Ryan Selkis, and he's no longer with them. And so maybe that's why we're seeing some actual positive reporting starting in XRP, because Ryan Selkis, my God, talk about someone who suffers from XRP derangement syndrome. He's at the upper echelon of XRP derangement syndrome sufferers, basically. But he's gone. And so it's just interesting to see something positive coming from Masari. And so here's a post from them. This is from yesterday. State of XRP Ledger Q3. Key update. XRP Ledger implements institutional grade features, paving the way for widespread adoption of tokenized real-world assets and compliant DeFi. And here are 3 bullet points, quarter-over-quarter metrics. XRP price up 27.2%. Real-world asset market cap on XRP Ledger up 215.3%. Did you hear me, folks? Real-world assets, which is something that will help to ensure the long-term viability of any blockchain, if it's getting adopted for that, because it is literally what it says. It's real-world financial assets that are tokenized on the XRP ledger, and XRP is required for every single one of those transactions to take place, and it's up 215%. That is utility. XRP is never going to zero if people and businesses and institutions use the damn thing. And yeah, it's true that most people in crypto are like me and you, and they just speculate on it and you're not using it. That's true for every coin, Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP. And people talk like that's some sort of negative. No, the fact that you and I are doing what we're doing makes it enticing for developers to build stuff. And that results in the opportunity, because there's such a large market and there's such deep liquidity because of people like you and I. It makes it attractive for institutions to come in and start tokenizing other financial assets in the crypto space on the blockchain. And so people like to say, oh yeah, but it's just speculation. And every time I hear that, I'm like, oh my God, you whiny bitch, just shut up. It is good that people are speculating. It is good. That's fuel for the entire ecosystem. I just feel like people like you and I, just the little guys out there, the speculators, I don't think we're sufficiently appreciated. You know, that's my 2 cents on it anyway. But yeah, it's great to see this, and again, of all places, Masari highlighting this. How about that, right? Here's a post from X-Force Global. It says, get ready for $10 plus as a conservative Wave 3 target, and that's for XRP, $10 plus conservatively. It says there are minor market inefficiencies on the local timeframes, but the macro chart shows clear accumulation and a solid price floor after almost a year of distribution. And he's right, folks, and that is fascinating. You can see, as far as where he thinks it's going to peak, maybe closer to $30. He thinks that it could peak that high anyway. You can see very clearly with what he's demonstrated on this chart right here. And then there was that wick a few weeks ago, October 10th. XRP went down to like $1.53 on some exchanges lower. On at least one exchange, I think it got down to about 80 cents. And so somebody asked him, do we have to revisit the scam wick and spend months down there, or are we going up now? So when he says scam wick, he's talking about the October 10th liquidation event. And X-Force Global responded with this. The major low is in my opinion. If we are seeing this on the macro, the low has been broken but bounced hard. We can definitely stay in these areas for more distribution before we go up, but that's all noise. And so he believes on a higher time frame, the answer is we go up. And this is what I keep seeing from almost every analyst that I follow. Here's a post from chart analyst Bark. He says, XRP is primed for $10 plus. The suppression is over. The weights have been lifted. Prepare for face-melting gains. I agree with the sentiment. He's a popular analyst, 233,000 followers. I'm just pointing this out to highlight, again, almost 100% of XRP chart analysts I follow have not changed their perspective because of anything that's been happening over the last month. Like nothing. Almost 100% of them believe, yeah, we're going higher. And they've got great track records. I mean, they've been right about where the market bottomed. They've been right about XRP blasting off this market cycle. And I bet they're right about, at least directionally, where this is going. I don't make price predictions, so I don't know where XRP might top, assuming we really do have this pump. I don't think it's not my shtick. If I were a chart guy, then maybe I'd play that game. I just admit up front, like, I don't know where XRP price is going, but I am in the same boat as you guys in believing that, even though I don't know like where it's going to go, I'm the same boat as you in terms of believing that the answer is way higher than where it is right now. It's just a question of to what degree and when. Here's a post from Crypto Insight UK. He says, I know there are a lot of people bearish here. Some are 50% out, some rotating. But let's throw a scenario out there. XRP starts to push towards $3.30 plus. What do these people do? Rotate? Buy their 50% back? Or just watch half of their bag in cash whilst what they thought was going to happen all along starts to happen? Well, that's a good question. Now, I'm not going to have to deal with that personally because after I buy assets, I do nothing. So this will never be a problem for me. I do not sell. I don't get cute with timing the market. I just hold because I believe as enough time passes, I will be proven correct. And now that I've been here for almost 8 years, that's very obviously the case. The amount of money that I put into crypto, while truly substantial, it's a lot. To me, subjectively, it's a lot. It's worth a freaking fortune compared to what I put in. A huge multiplier effect compared to the dollars I put in over that span of years to what it's worth now. Absolutely life-changing. And that's why one of my messages from this channel that I'll just consistently be sharing here is that the everyday person can do this. And I am like an everyday person. I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a finance guru. I'm a dude on the internet with a silly ass name, Moon Lambo. I'm doing it. You can do it if you want to. It doesn't mean there's no risk, but it does mean the opportunity's there. The opportunity's definitely there. All I did was buy, and now it's been almost 8 years, and I'm way wealthier to a ridiculous degree. And I hope that's, I don't know what the right word is. I don't know if inspiring is too much, but I hope that you at least see that it's real, like it is real. And I have nothing to sell you. Like I don't benefit from telling you this. I'm just telling you what I really, like my real lived experience and what I firmly believe is true. I'm just sharing my opinion here. You guys do whatever you want, but this is real life. The opportunity, it's absolutely real. It's to me, it's empowering. That's why I like delivering this message. It's empowering to regular people like you and me. That's why I like to share it. But you have to be patient. And you got to remove yourself from the equation. Like, that's just my opinion. I'm not telling you specifically what to do. I don't know what's best for you, but I'm just saying for the average person, if you just remove yourself from the equation, you're reducing yourself, because when you start tinkering with your position, you are the risk, okay? When you get cute with timing stuff. It's best to just admit, like, you don't know, but you have your conviction that over time, a number go up. And so if you just have your conviction, then just let that do the talking, You don't have to try and time stuff. And if you want a new position that's going up, it's worth considering instead of selling something that you have, using new money to buy that thing. That's what if I ever want a new position, I don't sell something to go so that I can afford it. I use other money, new money because I always got new money coming in, and then I go buy it with new money. But I don't sell. I just don't, because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know for sure which coins are going to be the big winners. I have conviction about certain ones, obviously, like XRP. But since I don't know, I just want to have a broad bet. That's why I hold a ton of different cryptocurrencies. Then somebody named Guy on Earth wrote to Crypto Insight UK, said, it's a tough call. Wait longer and have good bags is the solution. Yeah, wait longer. That is true. And Crypto Insight simply wrote, if you have time in crypto, you'll make money. Spot on. That is exactly in line with what I just shared with you. Be patient and you win. Here's a post from Income Charts. This guy, he does suffer from XRP derangement syndrome, but he's acknowledging something in the XRP chart, which is reasonable and true. Here he says, XRP has looked stronger than a lot of majors. OBV still trending up, but like a lot of things, flirting with danger. And so when he says OBV, that stands for on balance volume, and it tracks buying and selling pressure, combining price with volume. So it basically shows whether money is flowing into or out of XRP. And right now, XRP's OBV is still trending higher inside a rising channel, which means overall accumulation, it's still intact. But it's sitting right on support, as you can see if you're looking at the screen. Right here. Right? So that's where the flirting with danger moment Income Charts was talking about. Like that's where that comes in. But of course, if OBV holds up and turns up, XRP is going to keep outperforming the majors, frankly. And yeah, if it breaks down, sure, could signal buyers are losing momentum. But frankly, if that happens, if it's going to be to any notable degree, that means the whole market's tanking probably. So I don't think it'll be an XRP, exclusively an XRP thing if that happens. It means possible. There are some doomsayers out there. In theory, they could be correct. I just don't find their arguments to be particularly compelling based on historic precedent and a ton of other things I keep sharing on my channel. So yeah, I think personally that the best is yet ahead. So we'll see. And as I'm wrapping up the video, XRP price is going low. It's down to $2.55. I don't care. It doesn't scare me. Doesn't matter how low it goes. Market moves in tandem. Let enough time pass. The chart is up and to the right. I seriously don't doubt that. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because if anything I say are right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.